Today is Saturday, July 29th, 2023, and I'm going to read 1 Kings chapter 18. This is a really interesting chapter, and I just want to say before I start this, because I mentioned it in my last video, but I could mention some more here. I was mentioning that I'm on the lookout for Elijah versus Elisha. I mentioned that there seems to be some sort of change in Kings, that now it's following a prophet, whereas it seemed more historical before. I didn't see anyone commenting about that, so I guess we'll just see how long that continues. But one thing that somebody did comment about, which is important, and I don't think I mentioned it yesterday, is that Jesus talks about Elias, and many people just interpret that as Elijah. And I mean, that right there is a whole thing to get into the Elias thing, and it's like, were people expecting somebody to be like resurrected, like, or coming in the spirit of Elias? Is Elias really the same as Elijah? Sure, it's similar, but it seems different enough, Elias and Elijah. To me, it's not totally obvious why those would be expected to be the same person. And it was always confusing to me when Jesus would mention Elias and people are like, oh yeah, it's talking about Elijah. Well, what's your evidence for that? Why do we think that? And a lot of times they'll say stuff without explaining the why. Okay, but why? Why? I don't know. There's something to go research, I guess. And just because something I'll point out in the Bible, there's all sorts of people that have very similar names, but they're slightly different. So when people are just like, oh, Elias is clearly the same person as Elijah, it's just kind of like, okay, you're going to have to explain your reasoning there. So yeah, that's like another layer to this Elijah / Elisha. And then we have Elias. So let me know in the comments what you know about that. Let's get into this chapter though. Very interesting chapter. I'll just try to read it, because I remember it being very fascinating. And it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. And Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab, and there was a sore famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. For it was so, when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, that Obadiah took 100 prophets, and hid them by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water. It's interesting there, the detail that they tell us that 50 in a cave, so I'm assuming he had 2 caves going on. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And that's a very wise decision to not store all the prophets in the same cave. He had 2 separate caves, 50 in each. Could you imagine being a prophet of God and you have to hide in a cave because there's Baal worshippers and Jezebel priests are the only ones allowed in the kingdom? This is wild. And Ahab said unto Obadiah, Go into the land, unto all fountains of water, and unto all brooks. Peradventure we may find grass to save the horses and mules alive, that we lose not all the beasts. So they divided the land between them to pass through it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. And Obadiah was in the way, behold, Elijah met him. And as Obadiah was in the way, behold, Elijah met him. And he knew him, and fell on his face, and said, Art thou that my lord Elijah? And he answered him, I am. Interesting there, the use of the I am, too. And he answered him, I am. Go, tell thy lord, behold, Elijah is here. And he said, What have I sinned, that thou wouldest deliver thy servant into the hand of Ahab to slay me? As the Lord thy God liveth, there is no nation or kingdom whither my Lord hath not sent to seek thee. And when they said, He is not there, he took an oath of the kingdom and nation, that they found thee not. And now thou sayest, Go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here. So Elijah's afraid of being killed. They've been searching the land for him. And so the only reason I know this stuff that I'm talking about right now is because I read this chapter yesterday, because it was just so interesting. I kept reading. And reading ahead, I kind of have some better ideas about what's going on. That the entire land was cleansed of prophets of God, and they were replaced with prophets of Baal or Baal, and prophets of Jezebel. And So what I'm reading here, I mean, this is actually, I should probably do this more often. Reading ahead and then rereading, you get more stuff out of it sometimes. What I'm noticing here, where did it happen? He took an oath of the kingdom and nation that they found them. That is so interesting to me, that it's like a wanted signs are all over the kingdom, and everybody knows, everybody needs to take an oath that they haven't seen this Elijah guy. That's just something that's sticking out to me this time that I'm reading it, that I didn't pick up the first time. And it shall come to pass, as soon as I am gone from thee, that the Spirit of the Lord shall carry thee whither I know not. And so, when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find thee, he shall slay me. But thy servant fear the Lord from my youth. Was it not told my Lord what I did when Jezebel slew the prophets of the Lord, how I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water? Okay, so try to keep track of who's talking here. So they both have equal concerns. And so Obadiah is concerned that, hey, I can't go to Ahab and say I saw you and then not bring him to you. Then he'll probably kill me. At least that's what I'm picking up from here. Verse 14. And now thou sayest, go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he shall slay me. And Elijah said, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself unto him today. So they're coming to an agreement. You go tell him, and I will show myself. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab, and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, art thou he that troubleth Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed Baalim. Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So it seems like the groves that were built in the last chapter were made for Jezebel specifically. And so it seems like Jezebel is some sort of druid figure, I would imagine. Some sort of druid goddess-like demon. Lowercase g goddess, of course. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came unto all the people, and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. This is honestly what's coming up, one of the most impressive displays of faith and God's might, and his power that far succeeds, is that the right word? Far exceeds anything that demons can do, or these lowercase g fallen Nephilim. They're nothing. Okay. Verse 24. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered, and they leaped upon the altar which was made. This only gets more intense. This is seriously one of the most interesting chapters of the Bible. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them, and said, cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth, and must be awakened. Him mocking them is hilarious, but they're about to get crazy. And they cried aloud, and cut themselves after their manner, with knives and lancets, till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass, when midday was past, And they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any answer, nor any that regarded. You can just imagine these people going ballistic and bleeding, and it sounds like Elijah's kicked back with his feet up on a bench just watching this all unfold, and he's about to show even more might of God and more faith. And Elijah said unto all the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice, and on the wood. And he said, Do it the second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, Do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water. And it came to pass, at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that Elijah the prophet came near, and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell, and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. So the fire that fell was so strong, it consumed the stones. I've never seen a fire consume stones before. And so here, I wonder if, was this just Elijah's faith? He had such faith that he knew that he could dump water all about it and build a trench and fill it with water? Or did God actually instruct him to do that? Verse 39, And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, The Lord, he is God, the Lord, he is the God. Oh, I forgot the first time. The Lord, he is the God, the Lord, he is the God. And Elijah said unto them, Take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon, and slew them there. And Elijah said unto Ahab, Get thee up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and to drink. And Elijah went up to the top of Carmel, and he cast himself down upon the earth, and put his face between his knees, and said to his servant, Go up now, look toward the sea. And he went up and looked, and said, There is nothing. And he said, Go again 7 times. So a lot of repetition and significance of the numbers 3, 7, and 12 in this chapter. And it came to pass at the 7th time that he said, Behold, there ariseth a little cloud out of the sea like a man's hand. And he said, Go up, say unto Ahab, Prepare thy chariot, and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not. And it came to pass in the meanwhile that the heaven was black with clouds and wind, and there was a great rain. And Ahab rode, and went to Jezreel. And the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he girded up his loins, and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Man, some chapters of the Bible just read like an action movie. And, of course, I believe the Bible to be true, and oftentimes movies are based off of the Bible. They'll take stories from the Bible and just twist it. A lot of people don't. People have trouble coming up with original ideas, and the Bible is just an endless supply of inspiration. And so it inevitably crops up everywhere. What sticks out to me at the end here is, maybe this is just me, but it seems like, there really is a division of people. And kings, it seems more often than not that you can have these kings that it's like they often get away somehow. It's like the king has all of these evil people, and 450 of his priests were just slaughtered, but they just let the king go. It's just really interesting, and there really are different levels in society, and equality is not a reality of this place. People are born into different positions, and different people, depending on who you are, you have different rules in life. And anyways, it's just one of those interesting things. It seems like kings get away a lot of times. It's like, why was Ahab allowed to stay alive? But it's I don't know. It's one of those interesting things. There's more consequences if you kill the king than if you just slay all the minions of Baal or whatever. I just find it interesting. You could talk about that more. Yeah, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. God bless everyone.